Good morning, champions. I thought I'd spare you watching me in my morning routine this morning because I'm always leery of your time, and I think you get the point. Today, I just want to open up with a very important fact I need you to understand. This is, believe it or not, my sports devotional Bible. It is without question, the Bible, the best-selling book in the history of mankind. This is Think and Grow Rich. This is probably the second biggest selling book in the history of mankind, but it's certainly the best-selling, inspirational, motivational, self-help book ever created. I told you I was a researcher. This is my book. It's called Wealthology: The Science of Financial Success. I want to tell you what these books have in common. My book did not sell nearly as many copies as the other books have sold. But I'm willing to bet you that my book had the same percentage of effectiveness as those other books have had. Now, I'm not trying to commit blasphemy and saying that this book is anything like what the Bible is. What I am saying is that when the typical person reads new information, whether it's from someone they never heard of before, someone that they've been historically successful, or something inspired by intelligence far greater than mine, the person reading it doesn't take it in, it doesn't change them, except at a 2 to 5% rate. So 2 to 5 out of every 100 persons who read any book are actually affected in a significant way by that book. I don't care how much they cry when they read the book. I don't care how much they shout hallelujah. I don't care how enlightened they become. They are largely unchanged a week later, unless they have some kind of a support system or something in that book changes the conversation in their head, which is why this one is probably the most successful, because this definitely has the power to change conversation in our heads. The point I'm making is the same thing is true of the training programs, the books you read, the programs you take, whatever it is that you're doing for inspiration, motivation, self-help, and learning, it's successful at a 5% clip. If you think about all the books that have ever been written, if you think about all the training programs that I've put on, think about all of the internets and the blogs and all this stuff with all this information out here, anyone who wanted to lose weight, improve their relationship, improve financially, grow their career, or succeed as a marketer has the information available to them to do it, right? You know this. Yet so few people ever change significantly because they're addressing the wrong issue. It's not skills. It's not desire. It's not motivation. It is the conversation in your head that must change. And that's been the purpose of this program all along. This is day 3, video 3. And by now we have weeded out a few people who are looking for a quick fix or something that, they didn't actually have to do anything to fix. By day 3, you're a person who either understands what you're getting or you're really stuck and you are desperate for help. Either way, the rest of this program is about giving you the techniques to further change the conversation in your head. In video 1, you became aware of the problem. In video 2, we laid a foundation with the enemy and the declaration. Now we're going to talk specifically about what you need to do at the moments of truth, the most significant moments of your life, and how to use questions to change the conversation in your head. So in between lessons 5 and 6 of this video, I'm going to give you something very unique in a free program. I'm going to give you a guarantee. That's right. I'm going to give you a guarantee that what you learn in lessons 6, 7, and 8 will change the conversation in your head, thus changing your choices, thus changing your actions, thus changing your results, thus giving you the power to change your life. This program is primarily about marketing. The examples, everything we talk about deals with you and your life as a marketer. But if you want to do better financially, spend less money, get out of debt, if you want to exercise more, eat better, and improve the health and fitness of your body, if you want to improve in relationships by becoming a better person yourself, if you want to become a better parent or better anything, take the lessons you learn and apply them to that area of your life. And not only will you improve as a marketer, but you can improve any area of your life you choose. That is my claim, and I'm going to back it up with a guarantee at the intermission of lessons 5 and 6. So in lesson 5, I'm going to tell you about the most important moments of your life. And I'm going to show you a powerful tool that you can use to master those moments.
Good.
Now, have you ever, and I know you've done this.
Let's see what you got.
Have you ever said yes to something and then kicked yourself because you knew you should have said no?
Oh, all the time.
All the time. Have you ever woke up, and we know you have done this also because you're stuck, but being stuck means you wake up in the morning, you plan to do stuff, and you just don't do it. You just change your mind at the last minute and decide not to do it.
Or people change your mind at the last minute.
Have you ever said no to an opportunity and then kicked yourself because you should have said yes?
That too. Yes, I've done those things.
Have you ever walked into a conversation with somebody saying, I'm going to say this and this and that. I'm going to set them straight. I'm going to tell the truth. And then you got there and you just kind of melted like butter and didn't say anything?
Yeah.
And the same thing happens when you say you're going to close somebody or you're going to make these propositions or proposals to people in your marketing. These are the things we're going to talk about today, because every time you let one of those opportunities go by, it costs you. It costs you time, it costs you energy, it costs you belief, and it often costs you money.
Okay.
So we want to make sure that those things stop happening to you, because that's a part of your being stuck.
All right.
So today's lesson is called The Moment of Truth.
Okay.
So let's review.
All right. I'm looking this way. Okay.
Let's review. We started with the concept that there's a conversation in our head.
Sure.
And that it's a war going on between our real self and our ideal self.
I remember that.
We talked about the event.
Yes.
And the event was what we had to do when we had to do it. And that the closer we get to the event, the more the war rages in our heads.
Right.
We talked about an enemy, and we talked about a declaration.
Sure.
Now we're talking more about, let's get at that moment of truth, which is really seconds before the event. So you've woken up this morning, or you decided now is the time. And now it's literally 5 minutes or 10 minutes before it's time to act. Or you're on the phone with somebody, you have a day of marketing plan and they need a ride somewhere. They want to go hang out with you. That's also a case of the moment of truth where you have to step back a second.
Sure.
It's time to speak like you said you would speak, make the decision that's best for you, or act in the way you said you would act. That's the moment of truth. It doesn't matter what you do or what you say the rest of the time. It only matters what you say, what you decide, and how you behave at the moment of truth. So what I would like to do is give you the most powerful tool ever created for making the right decision, saying what you intended to say, and acting the way you intend to act. This is all about intention.
Okay.
And that tool is a 2-part tool. Tool number 3 is stopping. The idea of stopping before you do something. Does that make sense?
Okay.
And then tool number 4 is asking the right questions. So here's how it looks. You are a marketer, right?
I am.
And you say at 7 o'clock, I'm making phone calls.
Right.
And you have your list ready. And as you come up to 7 o'clock, you start getting all of these excuses. Or maybe at 6:45, somebody calls you up and says, I need your help with something, or I want you to do something with me or for me. Anything that happens is going to stop you from doing this thing you said you were going to do. Most of the time what happens is we just, okay, and we give in and we do it. Or we give in to the conversation that's going on in our head and we stop doing it. Well, stopping and questioning, here's why this is so important. Q stands for questions.
Gotcha.
You ask questions whether you know it or not. The conversation in your head is your real self asking you questions about what you're about to do.
Okay.
And when you ask questions, the
Okay.
answers give you E, which is emotions.
Ah, all right.
There are positive emotions, there are negative emotions. And based on your emotions,
Okay.
you make a choice and take an action.
Okay.
So if real self wants to stop you from being successful, it asks you questions. Step back again.
All right.
It asks you questions that give you negative emotions that cause you to make the choice to stop, do something different, act weakly, and then you take weak actions.
Okay.
So if you have natural fears, if you're already hesitant about your marketing, and real self says, do you really want to do this? Do you know they could say no? Any stuff like that, you start getting fearful. That's how you feel the fear. That's the emotion. And you decide not to do it. Or you do one call very weakly and then you give it up. But that happens naturally behind the scenes. I'm here to get you to take control and let your ideal self do it.
Okay.
And so when you start hearing voices, when the phone rings, I want you to stop. Just stop. Now, when we first got married, do you remember how I used to say, oh, by the way, we're doing this on Saturday because somebody asked for help? And I would say, why did you say yes? Well, I don't know. I was under pressure. They asked me some questions. I just said yes. Do you remember those days, dear?
Because I'm nicer than you.
You can call it nice if you like.
I am.
I call it obligating me. The bottom line is, what did I always say you should do?
Stop.
Stopping at the moment of truth is a brilliant, it is the perfect thing to do when you're not sure what to say. And if you got into the habit of stopping before you spent money, before you ate food, before you decided not to exercise, before you decided not to do the stuff you said you would do, if you really stopped and asked, what is really going on here? Don't you think you'd be more likely to go forth and do what you said you would do?
Exactly.
And so when you have plans and someone calls to change your plans, stop. Decide if you really want to change your plans or not.
Okay.
When you stop, then you ask questions, and you can ask questions that bring about the emotions of power, fuel, energy. I want to do this, which will make you make the choice to do it and allow you to take the actions to do it. So here are the times when I really want you to stop and question before you make a decision. Whenever anyone asks you to do something, I want you to take the time and stop and really ask questions. Is this something I really want to do? When you're trying to decide, what am I going to do next? So when you say you're going to prospect, you're going to talk to people, make phone calls, and you're thinking about changing, stop and ask, what do I really want to stop this? Why? And then when you are evaluating results, another moment of truth is when you evaluate results. And so somebody tells you no. Before you say, I'm not good at this, or this never works for me, I want you to stop, and I really want you to ask questions. Now, the question is, what questions do you ask, right?
You know, I was way back there. What does it say? Well, what questions am I asking?
So here's the answer to that. Lesson 6, 7, and 8, I'm going to give you the specific questions to ask regarding each of these three circumstances.
Okay.
So when somebody asks you to do something, I'm going to give you some questions to ask. When you're wondering what to do next and when you are evaluating results, I'm going to tell you specifically what to ask. But here's why I'm not doing this as a part of this lesson.
Okay, why aren't you doing
Because if you don't stop, if you don't get the idea of stopping and asking questions in your head, the questions, giving you the right questions doesn't matter.
All right.
It's just another skill that you'll never use.
So you want us to practice that?
I want you to practice that. I want you to start when somebody calls you up today, when the phone rings, stop and think, do I even want to answer it?
Oh, gee.
Just because the phone rings doesn't mean you have to answer it, does it?
Well, no.
So therefore, stop and think, is this taking me away from what I'm supposed to be doing right now by answering the phone? It's easier to not answer it than it is to tell somebody, I gotta go, I got stuff to do. So don't answer it. Call them back when you're done.
That's true.
Now, one of the things that I find interesting is that the problem we have with saying no to people is that we want to be nice and we want to help people, but I question whether we're really helping them And I also question whether we're hurting ourselves even more than we are helping them.
Sometimes it's hard to say no.
It's only hard if you don't stop and really think about the cost. Basically, it's their goals or
Versus
our
yours.
goals.
I see. That makes
So what's your goal again? What's your declaration to be a?
what do you mean as far as just being
Your declaration, yes.
Oh, my declaration is to change my career so I can become an at-home mom to adopt children.
So how many other people's problems are more important than that? And what level of problems do they have that's more important than that? Is their unwillingness to take a cab or a bus somewhere?
I guess it depends if what they're asking me is really trivial. Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. And I will tell you that you have the quote, real full-time job, right?
I do.
And if somebody called you up with a request and said, you need to leave your job and come and get me and take me for a ride somewhere, that would be a completely different level of need that they would have to be in than it would be when it's your own business. And I'm telling you, that's why
That's the same thing.
you will never succeed in your business until you take it as seriously as you take your job.
That's true.
And I will say the same thing to you. If you are a marketer, I work for myself, I set my own schedule, and I can tell you, people never respected when I said I was working because I was working from home. And I was working for myself. So I can stop anytime and help. I had to ingrain it in people that when I say I'm working, I'm working. And I need to ingrain it in you and in you. If you're serious about your business replacing your other income so you can be a stay-at-home mom and be a mom again, then I need you to understand that your work time for you is just as important, if not more important, than your work time for somebody else.
I agree. I agree with that.
And so the last thing I'll say about this stopping and thinking thing is that if you think about let's say you get off of work at 5 and you got from 5 to 9 productive time to get your work done, and I waste an hour of your time, or I call you up with an hour, I've wasted 25% of your workday.
That's true.
And so this is the way you must think about your marketing business, your business. If you called somebody who was serious about their business, they might not answer the phone until they were done. And if you said I need to take you away, they're going to say, no, I'm working. And until you get there, I question how serious you are about your business. So I hope lesson 5 made sense to you. I hope you got it. I hope you understand exactly what we're saying at the event, at the moment of truth, when it's time to execute, when you get those results, that is when you're going to apply what you're going to learn, especially in the next 3 lessons. But I promised you that I would make you a guarantee. So here's my guarantee. In lesson 6, lesson 7, lesson 8, specifically, you're going to learn 3 ways to really change the conversation in your head at the moments of truth in your life. At the most important moments of your life, you're going to learn what to do in those situations. Here's my promise to you. If you apply what you learn in the next 3 lessons, and you've already applied what you've learned in the first 5 lessons, you will change. Your life will change, your choices will change, your behavior will change, your performance will change, and your results will change. And I'm willing to guarantee it with a $15 McDonald's gift card that if you can say to me in all honesty, Mark, I did everything you said and it just didn't work, I'm willing to send you a McDonald's gift card for $15. And yes, McDonald's sells salads and other healthy foods. McDonald's is a national franchise, so no matter where you live, I know there's going to be one near you. That's why I'm choosing that one. I need you to understand, the only thing stopping you from doing and being exactly what you want to do and be is the conversation in your head. And the only way to change it is with the questions that I'm about to teach you in the next 3 lessons. So stay tuned. Lesson 6 is on its way. In lesson 6, you're going to learn how to architect boldness into your choices and your actions. Here we are at lesson 6.
Lesson 6.
And you see some changes in at least the conversation in your head and how that relates to your action.
Right.
And that frequently happens during the program, but do you sense something going on different inside of you that's going to create lasting change?
Well, my conversation is getting better.
Okay. So today I want to address what I think is your biggest enemy.
Okay.
And an enemy that you must conquer, not just as a marketer, but in life in general. And it's called architecting boldness.
All right.
I want to help you architect boldness, and I want to replace what is the marketer's number one enemy, which is
Fear.
fear. Fear is your and my number one enemy. In fact, the only reason we don't do everything it takes to be successful is because we're afraid and we fear doing it. But in essence, what is actual fear? I mean, what is it? Fear. What is it?
I mean, it's thinking the worst of something or expecting the worst of something when you really don't know. It's unknown, so it doesn't have to be bad.
Right. In essence, it's the conversation in our head. That's why one person may be afraid of something and 100 others might not be.
Sure.
Or 100 people might be afraid of something and one person is bold enough and goes and does it, because it's all about the conversation.
Exactly. Yeah.
But here's the consequences of fear. Every time you give in to your fears, you shrink, and I shrink as a person. Not to mention our income shrinks, our confidence shrinks each time, we lose power, and our life suffers every time we're afraid of something by choice.
Right.
Not jumping off a cliff, we should fear that, but fearing things like marketing ourselves, talking to new people, getting out there and doing what it takes to be successful, those fears cost us. So I'm willing to make the case that most of what's wrong in our life originates in fear. Certainly in a marketer's life.
Sure.
Because if you fear doing the things it takes, you're never going to create the life that you want to live.
No. Right.
What is it that you actually fear, though? That's the question that must be answered in order to solve the problem. You're either afraid of the choice or the action. So a lot of people would be afraid to walk up to a total stranger and introduce themselves and say, hey, I have something that you might be interested in. Reasonable, but it holds you back. You may be a fear that you might do it poorly, that you're not good at it.
Right.
Which is reasonable, but you can easily learn to do it better.
Yeah, you have to keep talking to more people.
Or you may fear the negative consequences of the choice, like they're going to look at you and explode, or they're going to just all of a sudden pull out their handgun and shoot you. I mean, it must be the way we act, right? Because we're really afraid of that. But it's fear.
It's fear.
It's unfounded fear.
It is.
So I want to change the conversation so you change from fear to boldness. And it happens with 3 questions that change the conversation in your mind. Those 3 questions are very simple questions. And as you approach something you're afraid of or fearful of, just ask yourself these 3 questions. What is the best thing that could happen? So if I'm a marketer and I make a phone call or I meet somebody who's a stranger, what's the best thing that could happen if I do this?
They could say yes.
They could throw money at you.
Right.
Can't happen if you don't do it, but it can if you do it. What will that mean to my life? If people start throwing money at me, what would that mean to my life? What would it mean to your life?
I would be very happy.
You could then have the freedom of schedule
Yes.
and become an adoptive parent, right?
I can
But
reach my-
it won't happen if you don't do what it
That's it,
takes
right.
to. And then finally, and this is the important question, what can you do? In other words, what can you learn? What can you practice? What can you master to make sure the best thing happens? This is the part most of us miss in the equation. We can learn how to get better. We can learn how to do better. We can master the art of walking up to strangers and introducing ourselves to them. We can master the art of a phone conversation. We can master so many things that'll help make sure that the thing we fear doesn't have to happen to us. That we get this best thing, that we create that life. That's how you master fear. And at the moments of truth, that's when you ask these questions. As you start to feel yourself, talk yourself out of it, that's how you change the conversation. Because remember, Q, the questions you ask create emotions. Those emotions either create excuses or they create fuel to do it, which influences your choices and your actions. So will you, the next time you feel fear, ask these 3 questions?
I'm going to, now that I know them, sure.
Will you, next time you feel fear, ask those 3 questions? And if you do, I promise you, you will be more powerful, you'll be bolder, and you'll be more congruent and better because you're not doing it out of fear.
Good.
So when we come back,
I'll have to write those down.
you haven't been writing everything I say down? I thought you hung on my every word, dear. But in the next lesson, lesson 7, I'm going to show you that there's a place for fear in your life. And I'm going to call on that fear. I'm going to teach you to call on that fear because it'll fuel you like even better than boldness will when you know what to fear. So we'll see you in lesson 7.